Well, welcome back to a much more busy Texas Motor Speedway than we had yesterday. We've got the NASCAR Truck Series, the Craftsman Truck Series. I actually get to say that and be right this time. A lot of times it was a mistake when I said it. But the Craftsman Truck Series is about to go out. Doubleheader, NASCAR and IndyCar this weekend, so that's really fun. Texas Motor Speedway, man. I just got to say this before we get into the rest of the video. IndyCars belong on 220 plus mile per hour super speedways. I'm so sad that there's only 2 of them on the schedule. I wish there were more, because I just was watching this practice session in which really the teams and drivers did a great job of working in the second groove. Hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate with us and keep that second groove intact, but it looks like there's some rain scheduled in the forecast, so we're a little bit worried about that. The other question, of course, is going to be the compatibility with the Goodyear rubber versus the Firestone rubber that the IndyCars use. The Truck Series obviously about to do a 250-mile race here at Texas Motor Speedway, so there's a lot of question marks about this race, but that's traditional for Texas. It's always that way. There's always question marks, and that's kind of why we like it. It's unpredictable. So let's take a look first at the starting grid, how they'll line up tomorrow, because it looks a little bit like it did last year. And it's a double pole position from Felix Rosenqvist. You'll hear from him later alongside of Scott Dixon. No surprise that he's at the front. Alexander Rossi continues his strong start for Arrow McLaren on the inside of row 2 alongside Joseph Newgarden, who may be the strongest car in the field. Pato O'Ward also shares that distinction, as does Takuma Sato. You'll hear from him, Alex Palou and Will Power alongside each other in row 4. David Malukas and Colton Herta in row number 5. Romain Grosjean, Devlin DeFrancesco, all the Andretti Autosport cars save for one all together on the field. And then we've got in row 7 the AJ Foyt cars, Benjamin Peterson and Santino Ferrucci side by side. Strong row in row 8. Scott McLaughlin alongside our St. Pete winner, Marcus Ericsson. Callum Ilott alongside Ed Carpenter, highest qualifying ECR driver. Augustine Canapino on the inside of row 10 alongside Kyle Kirkwood, and pay attention to who Canapino outqualified. Elio Castroneves, Simon Pagenaud, the Meyer-Shank duo, Stingray Robb and Graham Rahal. Terrible weekend thus far for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Ditto Ed Carpenter Racing, Connor Daly, Renus VK, and then in the final row, Christian Lundgaard and Jack Harvey for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. So like I teased in the starting grid, we talked to several of the key combatants after qualifying. We got the pole sitter as well. Let's hear from Felix first, since he's leading us off.
All of my teammates up there as well. It's really good to see. A good day for us, and I think at Texas you want to be kind of top 5, top 6 to start the race. Maybe you don't want to lead, but we'll see tomorrow. It's a long way away now, so celebrate a little bit and then refocus on the race. I'm expecting the second lane to open up in 3 and 4, because already last year, you saw Newgarden in the last lap last year, he was able to make move on Scotty. So I think a lot of people kind of, that was an eye-opener for a lot, and the cars have a bit more downforce now, so I think that lane will slowly open up.
What was interesting about your run is you said on the radio it was stuck, but you were trimmed?
Yeah, well, I don't know how much more we could have trimmed. But we've always had like a good balance here. Unfortunately, I don't know, speed wasn't great, although we're still 4th, so we'll see. But yeah, it was a little bit of a, whenever you do these speedway qualifyings and you feel like it's too easy, you're like, what the heck's going on? But we were fairly trimmed, so I'll have to talk with the teammates, see, because I think there is some differing opinions on what we were feeling and stuff. So it'll be interesting.
Track conditions are a big story in this race. I mean, we've got Goodyear rubber going down. In fact, between now and this morning, it's different. Temperatures are different. It might rain before the race, so we might have a green track. I mean, what can you even anticipate what this thing's going to be like from a racing perspective or even a passing perspective?
No, I'm not too sure. You could kind of get anything, but we're doing the high line rubbering in. It looks like a lot of people are doing it. And, it's probably going to be similar. Like, you're not going to see guys on the actual second lane. You'll see them kind of really squeezed down below the PJ1 like we've seen in the past. So it won't be like we'll get that full second lane going. The high line practice is more going to be for like that lane and a half up. So hopefully that helps. We obviously have more downforce for this weekend. IndyCar's added some pieces, so that helps also. But yeah, like I said before, like I just feel like whenever IndyCar's been great, we've had huge wings that create drag. So the guy out front is draggier than the rest. And obviously that helps. And I think there's like a happy medium between pack racing and what we have now. So we're still searching for that combination. Hopefully this is like a good step in that direction, but we'll see.
Well, welcome back, Takuma. Pretty quick to come back. A pretty crazy track to come back to, honestly. How you getting on with this?
I almost did it this morning, with the vertical G-force killed me. But no, I had a really solid lump. It's quite comfortable. Obviously, the environment is it's very new for me, so I had tons to learn in a short period. But I think the team supported really well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see you with Chip Ganassi Racing. I don't think I would have ever expected to see this combination. How are you getting on with this team? I mean, I know they're giving you a heck of a car. Is it as good as you could have hoped for?
Yeah, I like a good surprise. So no, I think with no physical testing, and we went to the half day for this DIL, which is a simulator, sharing with Alex Pro, and that was good. Obviously. I'm being the first outing for the Chip Ganassi Racing, which let me do a laboratory moment, and the balance was a little bit out as we wished. But here you go. I think the Alex will be overtake us now, and I think for the rest of the team members should be fine. But no, it was solid.
We know how brave you are. We got a little extra downforce this year. What's kind of your assessment of how that's going to affect the racing? I know it's going to be a little bit different this year with Goodyear rubber down, potentially rain in the forecast. How do you kind of anticipate this race playing out?
Of course, it's depending on the ambient temperature and track temperature, and League tried to put a little bit more downforce on with a new package, which seems to be quite promising. We will probably getting 250 to 300 pounds of the downforce in luxury, shall we say? But still, I think it's not enough to go back to where we were in the manufacturer package, where we could do the side by side, to double wide and go to turn one. I don't think it's possible, but it's certainly closing up the racing, and hopefully it's not raining on Sunday, and wish we have an exciting race for everyone else.
You are probably going to have one of the more unique perspectives on the downforce change, because your experience was last year as a rookie and now this year as a veteran. What's the difference that you've noticed between the higher downforce versus the lower downforce, and what changes do you think that's going to make tomorrow?
So the higher downforce we haven't really even gotten into yet. Everyone out there right now is full trim, right? Like we got like everything off the car, as slipstream as possible, because it's still pretty easy flat. But once we start throwing downforce on, you're probably going to see maybe a little bit closer racing. Hopefully, that's the reason why they did it. But the main thing that we're looking at is tire life. Hopefully the tires hang on a lot longer, and you'll be able to race for a longer period, because this race has turned into a parade, not only because it's hard to race, but you can't race because you'll destroy tires if you try to race for one position,
Well, that's interesting, because I talked to Colton about that, and I was surprised to hear that he was easy flat, and I guess you were easy flat with no downforce. I mean, that kind of surprises me. Was that how it was last year?
It was. Yeah, that's how it was last year, and we felt the same way last year, where it was like, yeah, we could have trimmed it as much more as we wanted to, just keep going with it, but there's no more parts we can take off the car, so we're already at the max.
Really just need to know what happened. Where'd the speed go?
Don't know. So I think I maybe got a gust of wind or something, because like compared to my teammates, I'm down as well. So unfortunate, but it is what it is.
So more downforce. Do you think you'll be able to move up?
There's no doubt in my mind we'll be able to move up for sure, and I'll be making sure we do. So I think our strategy is going to be good too. We've always got great strategy, and hopefully we can do a really good run.
You know what? You were quick in practice.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody's fallen off a little bit from practice, but I mean, it's got to be feeling good to be that quick.
I think so. I think our number 29 capstone, Andretti Steinbrenner Honda, was good in traffic. That's the name of the game here, right? Qualifying is one thing, but having a good car in traffic, I think, is another. And it's a long race, 250 laps. Definitely learned from last year, so excited to get going tomorrow.
Well, that's what I've been asking all the second-year guys. There's a bit of a difference this year, a lot more downforce. I think Sato said it was like 300 pounds.
Yeah, it is.
So, how much of a difference can you feel, and do you think you can race up from 12th place?
For sure, I think so. See how far up we can get, but I definitely think we can race our way forward.
So, some thoughts on tomorrow. There's so many storylines. One of the big things with the top groove, it sounds like, is it's going to be tire wear. Downforce and that top groove are going to mean that there's better tire wear than we've seen probably since 2011. Ironically enough, that was the last time there was 28 cars, or as many as 28 cars, on an IndyCar grid at this racetrack. Traffic is going to be a key factor. There are several cars that are way off the pace in qualifying, some 4 miles per hour, which is a ton around here at Texas Motor Speedway. So, you're going to look at like and I don't mean this as a slight, but they're this slow, right? The Ed Carpenter cars are probably going to be lap traffic. The Ray Hall Letterman cars are probably, so you got probably 5 cars at least, maybe 6, that are going to be lap traffic early on in this race. Scott Dixon didn't seem too pleased with the aero package in that there's probably too much downforce. I mean, that's kind of been the common theme if you listen to the drivers across the board. It's clean, it's efficient downforce, but everybody's running the same thing. So if the track is more gripped up than it was last year, we're probably going to see at least the front runners run real close together. The question mark is going to be whether or not they can get side by side, whether they can pass each other, whether they can get away from each other. We saw in practice, Joseph Newgarden appeared on new tires on a fairly green racetrack, at least early on in that session, that he was 2 miles an hour ahead of everybody else and able to use that top groove. Everybody else kind of moved to that top groove towards the end of the session. I look for Joseph Newgarden, the defending winner of this event, to move to the front fairly early on. I think he's going to be the guy to watch on the start. Pato Award. But you think about the pole sitter too, Felix Rosenqvist. He was fast here last year. He had a half shaft brake. That's what took him out of the race. And now, obviously, usually when a half shaft breaks, that's a pit driver error coming out of the pits. So, we know that the Billy Vincent and the boys over on the 6 team are going to, throw all the kitchen sink at the strategy. It could be a strategy race tomorrow. If this goes green for a while, I don't think a lot of people expect that it's going to go green, but it could. We could see fuel strategy, tire strategy play into this race. It could be like one of those Iowa races back in the day where you throw new tires on it and go to the front. That's going to be a big key tomorrow. We only have had one incident thus far, believe it or not, despite the fact that I mentioned that I think a lot of us are expecting carnage tomorrow. Connor Daly spun over here, spectacular spin, didn't hit anything. So hopefully that's a good omen for tomorrow. I think, the danger is always present, right, at these super speedways, and we don't like to talk about it too much, but I will say that, with that speed and with the excitement comes the risk, and this is a very risky race tomorrow. We know that. But I think it's going to be an entertaining show. It's probably going to be more entertaining than last year, and frankly, I thought last year's show was pretty good. I think it probably saved Indy cars at Texas Motor Speedway, if we're being honest with ourselves. I think Texas Motor Speedway has done a great job here. Trying to promote this event, bringing the NASCAR Truck Series back, I think has helped a lot from a support race standpoint, from a getting people here for the entire weekend standpoint. I think all that stuff is good. And I think IndyCar working to make the racing better. We'll see. I think Scott Dixon had a great suggestion in the press conference, which is, I think the problem, he mentioned clean downforce. I think the suggestion he had, which I think is a good one, was that maybe you have something that's a little more risky, meaning you would add drag or sacrifice straight line speed, or maybe gain straight line speed and add drag, stuff like that, or turbulence, something to separate the cars. That's probably the one thing that's missing, because we see it in Indianapolis when they give them all the aero options. Usually, 90% of the teams all choose the same thing. You heard the drivers yesterday when they were talking, when I asked them about downforce, they all said, we're running max downforce. They were pretty candid about that. So I'd love to see some separation. It's tough to do with spec cars, but we'll have to wait and see for tomorrow. I think it's going to be a pretty good show. And if nothing else, appreciate it for what it is. It's only one of 2 times you're going to see Indy cars racing wheel to wheel at over 220 miles an hour. And I think for that, it's going to be special. Do I have any predictions for tomorrow? I think it's going to be a Chevy. I think it's going to be either an Aero McLaren car or it's going to be a Penske. I think you're looking at Newgarden. I think you're looking at Award as the 2 favorites. I think Felix is probably the spoiler, despite the fact that, of course, he's the pole sitter. If I'm picking someone from the Honda camp, it's probably Sato. I think Takuma Sato, he claims that it's the best prepared car he's ever been in, and we've seen what he's done in not so well prepared cars. So I think Takuma's going to be on one, and I think we're going to have a nice preview of the Indy 500 tomorrow too, from the perspective of who's hot, who's not, who's got the oval package, and who doesn't. And it sounds like there's going to be some bumping too, so maybe we should pay attention to the back of those timesheets as well. It's going to be an exciting race tomorrow. You know where to find the coverage, and if you haven't, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.